All right, today we're pulling back the curtain on the AI that's already reshaping our world. We're going to go on a journey from the very heart of generative AI all the way to the cutting edge of autonomous systems. The ones that can actually think and act on our behalf. Let's dive in. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein had this incredible line: "The limits of my language mean the limits of my world." And wow, in the age of AI, that has never been more true. Because at the center of this whole revolution is the ability for a machine to understand and generate language. And that's exactly where we're going to start. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the generative AI revolution and its core engine. Then we'll look at how we're making that engine even smarter and more reliable. From there, we'll jump into the rise of AI agents, the AIs that can do things, and we'll clear up the super important difference between agents and something called agentic AI. And finally, we'll get down to business and see how companies are measuring the real-world impact. Okay, first up, the generative AI revolution. And you have to understand, at its core, there is one piece of technology that makes it all happen: the large language model, or what we all call the LLM. What's just staggering when you look at this is the speed. I mean, for decades, language models were these little niche tools for very specific jobs, but since 2018, and especially since 2020, it's just been a total explosion. We've literally leaped from simple task helpers to these incredibly powerful general-purpose problem solvers that can write code, analyze documents, you name it. So, what is an LLM, really? Well, at its heart, it's a giant neural network built on this game-changing design called the transformer architecture. Its power really comes from two things. First, its insane scale. We're talking hundreds of billions of what are called parameters, which are kind of like the little dials and knobs the AI uses to learn. And second, the colossal amount of text it's been trained on. All of that gives it this almost spooky ability to get the patterns and subtleties of human language. But, having all that knowledge is one thing. Making it actually reliable is a whole other ballgame. So our next section is all about how we turn these incredibly powerful knowledge engines into something you can actually trust for real answers. Okay, so here's the big problem. An LLM's knowledge is basically frozen in time. It only knows what it learned during its training. It has no idea what happened yesterday, and it definitely doesn't know about your company's private data. This leads to that infamous problem you've heard about, hallucinations, where the model just confidently makes stuff up. So the billion-dollar question is, how do we connect it to live, relevant information? The answer is a really brilliant technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG for short. Now, instead of doing this super expensive and complex fine-tuning on the whole model, RAG basically acts like a real-time research assistant for the LLM. It goes out, fetches the relevant, up-to-date info from other sources first, and then gives that fresh info to the LLM. The result? A much, much more accurate and informed response. Let's actually walk through how RAG works, because this is just so clever. When you ask it a question, it doesn't just send your prompt straight to the LLM. Nope. First, as you can see here, it does a search in a special knowledge base, often something called a vector database, to find the most relevant little snippets of information. Think of it like a lightning-fast librarian pulling the exact right books off the shelf for you. Then, it bundles that fresh, relevant context together with your original question. Only then does it hand the whole package over to the LLM, which now has everything it needs to give you a smart, factual answer. So yeah, you can really boil that whole thing down into two simple steps. First, you got information retrieval. That's the super efficient librarian finding the perfect piece of data. And second, you've got natural language generation. That's the LLM acting like an expert communicator, taking that data and weaving it into a perfect, context-aware answer. It's this powerful one-two punch that really grounds the AI in reality. So now that we've seen how to make AI more reliable, let's take the next logical leap. What happens when an AI can not only access information, but actually act on it? This is where things get really exciting. We're now entering the world of AI agents. So, what exactly is an AI agent? Well, it's a system that goes way beyond just chatting. It combines the brain power of an LLM with the ability to actually use tools like APIs, software programs, you name it, to actively get stuff done and achieve a goal you've set for it. And look, this isn't some distant future stuff. It's happening right now. Just imagine an AI agent that handles onboarding a new hire, granting them all the right software access without a human lifting a finger. Or think about a finance agent that can literally read an invoice, check it against company policy, and then schedule the payment, all by itself. These aren't just tools anymore. They're becoming our new digital coworkers, our AI co-pilots. And that brings us to a really, really important distinction that trips a lot of people up. The difference between one of these AI agents and a much bigger idea called agentic AI. This is basically the difference between having a single specialized tool and having an entire intelligent system.
So, if you remember one thing, remember this: an AI agent is built to complete a specific task. Agentic AI, on the other hand, is the system that understands the big picture. It runs the entire workflow, figuring out which agents to use and when. One is the worker, the other is the manager.
This chart just makes it crystal clear. I mean, look at the scope. An agent? It's narrow, it's focused on one job. Agentic AI? It's broad, spanning whole workflows and teams. An agent has bounded autonomy. It follows the rules it's given. But agentic AI has strategic autonomy. It can actually plan, break a big goal down into smaller tasks, and then coordinate a bunch of different agents to get it all done. The best way to think about it is like this. If AI agents are the individual musicians in an orchestra, each one a virtuoso on their own instrument, then agentic AI is the conductor. It's that orchestration layer that reads the sheet music, which is the business goal, and coordinates all the individual players to create this one cohesive, powerful performance. That right there is what's going to unlock real transformation for businesses. Okay, this all sounds absolutely incredible, but it always leads to the big question for any organization, right? What is the return on investment? And that brings us to our final section, where we dig into the business impact and a pretty fascinating paradox when it comes to ROI. Let's start with some hard data. According to a recent Deloitte report, 15% of organizations that are already using just basic generative AI are reporting significant, measurable returns on what they've invested. So the value is real, and it is happening right now. But here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the timeline. For standard generative AI, the kind that helps you write an email or summarize a report, almost 40% of companies expect to see a return in just 1 year. But for that more complex agentic AI we were just talking about, most businesses see it as a longer-term investment, with the payoff coming in 1 to 5 years. So why the lag for agentic AI? Well, it's pretty simple. It's just a much, much bigger lift. I mean, putting a system in place that can coordinate actions across your entire company is incredibly complex. It has to manage these intricate processes. It needs deep, high-quality integrations between all your systems. And of course, it needs a really solid AI governance plan to make sure it's all operating safely and responsibly. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But even with those challenges, the momentum is just, well, it's undeniable. Gartner is predicting that by 2026, over 80% of enterprises will be using generative AI applications in their day-to-day operations. That's up from less than 5% today. The adoption curve is about to go nearly vertical. And all of this leads to a really profound question for every single one of us. As these powerful AI agents start to take over more and more of our complex workflows, what does that mean for the role of human expertise? The future probably isn't about us being replaced. It's about a whole new kind of collaboration. And that's something to really think about. Thanks for tuning in.